possible webinar. Angela is our specialist in this area, and we'll be running you through a number of different scenarios and essentially case-based projects that she's worked on and presented numerous times, and ultimately is much better placed to talk to you about it than I am. There will be a survey towards the end of this session, around roughly 5 minutes before, and towards the end where we'll be running a Q&A. So yeah, over to you, Angela. Thank you.
Nick, hi everyone, thanks for joining. So I've got the pleasure of showing you the art of the possible around Microsoft 365 Copilot today. So hopefully you'll find it interesting and give you some ideas on how it can work within your organization. This is the agenda that I'm going to go through with you today. So I'm going to work through why organizations are adopting AI, so where technology is going, why you should start considering it. And then I'm going to talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot. There are a lot of different types of Copilot licenses, but the main one Microsoft is shouting about is this one. And it would be suitable for any information worker. So anybody that has a laptop, PC, a mobile phone would benefit from this license. And most likely you have joined to see it in action. So I'm going to show you some demos on how it works within certain applications. Just bear in mind, there are a lot of capabilities within Copilot. So I'm going to give you some of the main ones today, but it can go way beyond that as well. My favorite part that I like to discuss is customizing your Copilot. So stay tuned for that when I talk about agents, and then we'll open up the floor for some questions. So let's get started. So why are organizations adopting AI? So I'm going to firstly show you where technology is going. So it took 2 months to reach 100 million users for ChatGPT. And as you can see in this graphic, it's taking less and less time to adopt technology. To put it into wider perspectives, because this is just months, it took 17 years for mobile phones. It took 7 years for the internet to reach 100 million users, and we all use the internet now, and yet now it's taken 2 months for ChatGPT. So generative AI is not going away, and we just want organizations to not be left behind. And why I say that is AI is not going away, generative AI is not going away. People are using things like ChatGPT, etc. And we don't want maybe your competitors to adopt it and feel like you're lacking in operational efficiencies, and then it would have advanced a lot more down the line. And the reason why I'm saying advanced is Copilot has only been established for just over 18 months, and there were 300 updates alone last year to that single license. So as I said, although I might say Copilot can and cannot do something within a certain application today, in a couple of weeks' time or a couple of months' time, it may be able to do that. So it's constantly evolving, and we want organizations to evolve with it to help you with your productivity gains and improve the quality of your work as well. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is the Work Trend Index. So this is an annual report that Microsoft runs every year to understand organizations take on AI. So I do recommend you download the report online just to see the full the review of it. And what they found for 2025 is employees are interrupted every 2 minutes. So I'm actually sharing my entire screen right now. So I've actually put myself on Do Not Disturb, so I'm not pinged through on Teams chats. I obviously get like loads of emails that come through. I have follow-ups and I have to present as well. And that's just me. So I'm sure that I'm not alone when I say this, that we all technically juggle a lot of different types of workloads. And what Copilot is going to do is try and give you that time back so you can focus more on your priorities and get rid of the things that you have to do, but you don't really want to do. And those are the repetitive jobs. It's going to put it into a better perspective when I go into the demos. But that's one part of the report. Another part is they found that 75% of people are already using AI at work, and 80% of them bring their own AI tool to work. So yes, I'm talking about things like the free version of ChatGPT, or something that's plugged into your emails or your Word documents for grammar checks. And these types of free consumer solutions might not even be approved by the organization, and employees might still be using it to help them rewrite emails or draft documents, etc. but that might also be posing risk to the business as opposed to using Microsoft 365 Copilot, which has that business purpose, that corporate protection. So I am going to give you a little bit of a deeper dive into what is the difference between ChatGPT and Copilot, but just bear in mind that people might be using AI already, so they might already be prompt savvy. So what I mean by that is there is an art to talking to AI, getting a response back, and it is really down to your prompt. So if you were looking to adopt something like Copilot, it might not take that long to when it comes to adoption and understanding how to get the most out of it, because most likely they're probably using a similar tool, just with maybe a possible risk against it. Right, so we have come to Microsoft 365 Copilot. What I want you to think about is, where do you see improvements in the organization? So would it be improving the quality of people's work, get rid of that human error in finance or in HR? Or would it be to speed up certain business processes? So, where do you spend most of your time and those repetitive tasks? Can we start to automate those flows? And then effort would be, do you want to start to retain staff? Maybe that you've got a lot of leavers, or maybe you just want to improve employees' experience. And it could be a little bit of everything that I've mentioned. But the reason why I'm showing you this slide is it's going to make a lot more sense if you think about it this way, and then think about, well, how is Copilot going to help me improve these areas that I want to focus on, as opposed to the other way around, and just try and understand what does Copilot do. So food for thought, because we are going into Copilot now. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant that is integrated within your Microsoft applications. So when you open up your Word, your Excel, your PowerPoint, your Outlook, Teams, etc., you have Copilot within those applications. You don't need to go over a browser, etc., in order to access it. So it's right by your side. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail as to how does it actually work in the background. So if you focus on the top left-hand side, let's say we open up an application. Let's say we open up our Microsoft Word. When you open up your Microsoft Word, you have a ribbon of features, don't you, at the top? You have changing the format, changing the bullet points, etc. You will also have your button, which is your Copilot button. Click onto it and ask it a question or a command. Let's say, Copilot, can you draft me a business proposal based on Project X? That's your prompt. And your prompt is then sent to the Microsoft Graph, which is on the bottom left-hand side. Your Microsoft Graph is unique to everybody in the business. It is your internal data, okay? So anything that you have access to, Copilot has access to as well. So this is data that is stored in SharePoint, OneDrive, your Teams messages, your emails. And you can even access things over the web. If you do toggle on web browsing, it can access things internally and over the web. But the reason why I say anything that you have access to, Copilot has access to, is because if you decided to, let's say, for example, you wanted 10 Copilot licenses, it doesn't mean those 10 users will then all have access to financial data when they never had access to it before, because it respects your permission boundaries. It doesn't go beyond that. Okay, so that's the Microsoft Graph. Once it collects the information that it needs, it's then sent to the large language model on the right-hand side. The large language model goes beyond a keyword search. So when you use like a search engine, so Bing or Google, for example, then that is a keyword search. So anything that you ask, it collates the words together and it gives you a data dump. And what the large language model does is it tries to understand what's your intention behind asking that question in order to give you a richer response. So my example was about Project X. So it's trying to understand, have I been working with somebody on Project X? Are there previous projects that are similar to Project X that I can bring to the response to give me a richer response? Now, that response is provided back into your application that you were using. So in its own words, it will give you a summary, but it will always citate where it's got its information from. So you don't ever have to second guess its response. So it will either citate, a SharePoint site, a document, an email, etc., in order to sense check that you're happy with the response. So hopefully that makes sense. They all work together, the apps, the graph, the large language model. I did say that I'm going to talk about ChatGPT. So anybody that uses the free version of ChatGPT, anything that they input, so the prompts, the data that they load up into ChatGPT is saved into public data. So you're training the model every time you use it, whereas Microsoft 365 Copilot doesn't do that, okay? So you can confidently input information that you deem as sensitive within the organization. So client information, financial information, anything that you deem as sensitive. And it's not trained on your prompts or your data, even to pass on to a colleague that works with you, let alone leak outside of the organization, because it has that corporate protection. So it respects your permission levels, and it's not used for its own model gains to strengthen it. And a common question that I do get is, well, how is Copilot trained if it doesn't train on my own data? Now, Copilot has already been trained in public books, articles, websites, in order to understand human language and that general knowledge, to give you that response that you're looking for, and obviously find the information within your estate. So it doesn't really need to use your data in order to improve. It's already improved its model. It was 4.0, now it's upgraded to 5. So it's going to give you deeper reasoning, give you a richer response. So it's going to constantly evolve, just not on your own data. Okay, so hopefully you're all still with me and that does make sense. Now we're going to go into some demos. Hopefully this is all what you've been waiting for. Now I've pre-recorded all of this in real time just to show you how quickly Copilot responds back. Before I play my video, I'll tell you what's going on. So Alex and Megan have both been discussing opening up a new store in London. So they've been going back and forth on emails, talking about tasks, ownerships, budgets, etc. And I know we've all been there when we've been looped in a chain of emails, and we need to scroll through and figure out what's going on. Okay, it's not great when it's Friday afternoon and you need to do that, but now there's something called Summary by Copilot at the top there. So you just click onto it and it summarizes that chain of emails for you. So you can just get up to date a lot more quickly, and then you can respond back. We are responding back. There are 2 options. There's draft and there is coaching. I'm going to show you draft first. So we're asking Copilot, can you draft me an email to accept my tasks in the inventory? Now, Megan is not mentioning what the tasks are, but she doesn't actually need to, because she's clicked reply. Copilot is going to do the heavy lifting for her and figure out what she needs to do based on those previous emails. She can be vague if she wants to be. You can change the tone, you can change the length if you want to, and then you can generate it. My next demo, I'm going to show you how to make an email sound more like you rather than general. But let's go through the basics first on how we can get an email drafted by Copilot. So we've got our drafted email. All those bullet points show you that all the tasks that Megan is taking ownership for. So Alex is fully aware. Now we can regenerate it if you want a different response, or you can tweak it. Where I'm typing in, make it into a poem. Obviously, you don't need to do that. You could say make it longer, make it shorter, please add more information. And this is just to make it a bit more lighthearted, as we are on a webinar today and we have quite a few demos to go through, and also to show you how quickly Copilot can transform an email into a poem. So I've never sent a poem in my life on email, but each to their own. If you want to, then that's a possibility as well. Right, let's go to the next one. How do we get Copilot to sound more like you when it's drafting you an email? So you will have an option to basically tell Copilot how you sound. What's your tone of voice? How do you prefer your emails laid out, like the format of it? Do you prefer it in bullet point format? Do you want it less than 200 words? How do you want it signed off? I prefer saying best regards, break a line, and then say Angela. So I'm just saying, write me a very short message about Copilot training. So Copilot is going to draft me that, and following my instructions that I've put into my settings, it's followed that. Otherwise, it would have said, Dear Bailey, etc., etc. And it would have said, I believe, kind regards, without breaking a line. And because there's no word count, you could actually start to say, when I speak to this person, this is how I sound. When I speak to an external person, such as this person, this is how I sound. So you can actually paste certain templates for it to follow as well. So you can get Copilot to sound more like you on emails. Now, what if you prefer to write your own emails? What can Copilot do? So let me show you. I have had a meeting with Emma and I'm following up with her and I'm saying, hi, Emma, thanks for the meeting. Let's have another meeting on Friday to discuss plans for a webinar. And I'm going to show you coaching. And coaching looks at how are you going to respond back to a recipient. So it looks at the tone, the clarity and the sentiment of your email. So if you're coming across a little bit harsh, it's going to pick it up under coaching, just to give you a little bit of some feedback. So under mine undertone, it says, instead of saying perhaps we can schedule, change it to I would love to. Replace maybe we can do Friday to I am available on Friday. So be more assertive. And then under sentiment, it says encourage engagement and interest. So maybe ask a few more questions to gauge more interest around this webinar that we're going to discuss further. Under clarity, if you had any spelling mistakes, this is where it would be. In my case, it says specify meeting details, because I've only mentioned I'm free on Friday. I didn't mention any times, any particular times I'm free. So Copilot is saying be a bit more specific. You can click on apply suggestions, and Copilot will create you another email with those suggestions. And you can replace your original email, or you can just click on insert below and then just pick and choose what you want to update your original email. So you have two options: to get Copilot to draft you an email, or write your own email and get some feedback to help you with your writing style. Right, let's say we have come back from annual leave and we've got a couple of unread emails to go through, okay? Or maybe you're on the go, so you've got a couple of unread emails. Let's just assume they're from different people and not just from myself. They are for demo purposes. And I've clicked on the top right-hand side, I've clicked on chat. This is Outlook chat. And it gives you a prompt box at the bottom. It gives you a little microphone. If you want to speak to Copilot, you can. It could be speech to text. You have some suggested prompts to get you started, which I highly recommend you have a look at, especially if you're a new Copilot user. I'm writing my own prompt. I'm saying, Copilot, can you have a look at my unread emails and categorize them? We all know the types of emails that we receive, and I'm sure you can probably put them in certain buckets. So I've said categorize them. In my case, it was a demo around recruitment. So categorize them against complaints that have come through, any kind of prospect clients, anybody that's asking me for new jobs. So there we go, potential candidates for new job positions. And there is, as I said, there's an art to asking Copilot questions. And if you're a bit more specific, then it's not going to deviate and assume you're thinking of something else. So just give it a little bit more clear context, and then it's going to follow that. Because if you just said, Copilot, can you summarize my unread emails? Yes, it's going to give you a response, but it's not going to give you a response like what I've got right now. It's probably going to start to bullet point all of your unread emails. And what if you've got 100 of them? You won't find that very effective. So if you spent a bit of time and just say, can you categorize it? I mentioned highlight some time sensitive messages, and it mentioned the complaints and also a priority order at the bottom. So it actually mentioned what I need to start off with, what's my highest priority that I need to address first, and what's least priority. So it can help you tidy up your inbox as well. I haven't got a demo of this, but in the same prompt box, the chat, Outlook chat, you could even get Copilot to access calendars. If you have access to your colleagues' calendars, and maybe you want to book in a Teams meeting, you could say, Copilot, I want to book in a meeting with Becky and Nick, and I just need 30 minutes to discuss further plans for Copilot training. Then Copilot will actually go and have a look at their calendars, figure out when we're all mutually available for 30 minutes, and then create a Teams invite for you. You will need to action it off to say you're happy with it, and it will give you alternative times as well. So if you weren't happy with that time, you can pick the other ones. Okay, so you can schedule with Copilot. Okay, so that is Outlook. Hopefully you have found that interesting. I am going to move on to PowerPoint. Hopefully I haven't skipped anything. Right, so I would say somebody that uses PowerPoint often, like myself, would find this useful, or even somebody that shies away from it because they feel like it's too time consuming. And I'm going to show you why I think it's suitable for different users. I'm going to click onto Copilot, create a presentation. And I'm going to say, create a presentation about Microsoft 365 Copilot. Keep it engaging and fun. And I'm going to attach a Word document. And in order to attach a Word document, you could just use that little attachment icon on the right-hand side, or you could just do / and it would show you your recently saved documents. They could be Word documents or they could be PDFs. Coming soon, you can attach an Excel spreadsheet as well. And what you're going to see is Copilot is going to create you a narrative. So how is it going to structure that presentation for you? And you can move them around if you didn't like the flow of it. You can add more information, delete certain areas if you didn't think it's relevant. So you have a bit of a co-editing say before Copilot generate you slides. a common question that I do get is, can Copilot use my company branded templates? Yes, Copilot can use your company branded templates. You will need to open them up first and then get Copilot to generate you slides, and it's going to pick and choose what certain samples to use for each, cover slide, etc. And it would use your color schemes and your logos, etc. Now, I've just used general slides, so it's going to use the AI generated photo pictures or stock images, so you have no copyright issues in order to implement them. It will include speaker notes as well. A top tip is, if you wanted Copilot to only create you 3 slides, please mention that on your first prompt, create me 3 slides. Otherwise, Copilot will get confused if you want to condense it. So just bear that in mind. And as you can see, whilst I was talking, Copilot has actually created me a full presentation, and they're all varied. As you can see, the images are positioned in different places. It's visually appealing. We've got cover slides, we've got speaker notes. On the top right hand side, you can click onto the main Copilot button, and you could say, change this image for slide 14 to something else, and you could be as descriptive as you want, and Copilot will create it using AI generation and create you that image. If you do have your own images, then just direct it to your SharePoint library, and it would pick and choose which ones is most relevant based on how you've titled them. As Copilot has done a fabulous job creating a presentation, I'm just going to say, can you create me an email with the agenda as well, please? Because I need to share this with my colleagues. And that's what it's done. So it's creating me an agenda, and I'll share that. So hopefully that gives you an idea that you no longer have to start from scratch when it comes to creative presentations. Even if you use this as a first draft, it's going to take you far less time to just go over and just do your tweaks than starting from a blank canvas. Okay, so that's Copilot for PowerPoint. Let's move on to Teams. Copilot works on transcription. So when you set up a Teams meeting, you can say turn transcription on when we join the meeting, or when you have already joined the meeting, you can turn transcription on. So we are actually catching up on a meeting, and recording was on. Recording is not compulsory, just bear that in mind. All the colors at the bottom will show you who spoke when, so you can, jump into Lee, for example, and it will give you different chapters if you want to focus on certain topics. Now, when the meeting has ended, you will get a static summary of what was mentioned, but if you want to dive a little bit deeper and just get a little bit more insight, do what I'm doing. So I've opened up Copilot and I'm saying what decisions were made during this meeting. And this is better than catching up with a colleague, eating into their time, watching an hour-long recording and only figuring out there's one point that's relevant, and just getting straight to the point of Copilot. So Copilot came back saying they decided to delay their launch date for this project, and all those little citations will show you who spoke when, what did they say, just to verify Copilot's conclusion. Now, I'm digging a little bit deeper. I'm going to say, did they reach a group consensus? So did they all agree to delay this launch date? And bear in mind, I am showing you this demo when a meeting has ended. Copilot does work live on a Teams meeting as well. So once this demo ends, I will explain to you how it works. Right, so Copilot has come back saying they decided to delay their launch date by 2 weeks. As I said, prompting is important. So I'm saying, list me the pros and cons for delaying the launch date and put it into a table. If I didn't mention the format, it might come back in a chunky paragraph or a couple of bullet points. It might not be the layout that I want. So just take your time and explain the format that you prefer. And that's what I've got. And same thing with action items. I'm sure we all, nine times out of 10, have follow-ups after a meeting. So I want to know what they are. So I'm going to ask Copilot, list me the action items and put it into a table format and the owners against them. This is really good. If you've got a Teams meeting with 10 people, you've turned Copilot on or transcription on, and then you ask Copilot to list you those action items and you share them with the rest of your colleagues saying, this is what we need to follow up on. There's no excuse to forget with Copilot on. And as you can see, although this demo has ended, it will show you who needs to do what within that table format. So it's task management as well. Okay, so this demo was all around when a meeting has ended and to catch up. if you are on a meeting, live on a Teams meeting, and you have set up the meeting or somebody within your organization has set up the meeting, then you can have transcription on. If it's an external meeting, let's say, for example, I have set up the meeting and I sent you it, then you cannot turn your transcription on. Okay, just bear that in mind. But let's say you have transcription on live on a meeting and you're all discussing things, and maybe one of your colleagues has jumped into the meeting 10 minutes late. They can click onto Copilot and they will only be able to see their chat interface with Copilot, and they could say, catch me up. What have I missed since I've joined in late? Has my name been mentioned? Has there been anything shared, etc.? This is really good if you're doing any kind of interviews with externals or even speaking to clients. You no longer have to note take by hand. You could just turn transcription on, let the other person know that you're turning transcription on, open up your Copilot live during the call, and they can't see what you're typing. But you could say, give me a summary of what was mentioned and anything that I need to follow up on. And you could say, hi, Mr. Client, this is what I've discussed with you. These are the questions that I need to follow up on and get you some answers for. Is there anything else that we need to address live during the call? So you have your AI buddy live on call as well as just catching up if you need to. Okay, so that's Copilot in Teams. It works with Teams chats. You can follow meetings as well. That's one of my favorite features. So if you are on annual leave or you're on the go, you have two meetings that clashes with each other. When you RSVP, you don't have to decline that meeting anymore. You can click on follow. And what that means is Copilot is going to attend that meeting for you. So that whoever can attend the meeting, it will say, Angela can't attend this meeting. Can you turn transcription on? And then somebody will have to turn transcription on for my Copilot. Copilot will add that summary back into my calendar so I can catch up in my own time. Okay, so you can get Copilot to attend meetings now. Right, so Copilot for Loop, I would say this might be an educational piece if you don't know what Loop is already. It is part of your license, so please take a look at it and see if it's something that's relevant within your job role that you can start using, because Copilot does integrate within Loop as well. So Loop is all around project planning. So if you are brainstorming with a group of people, working on different projects or tasks, you can create several different pages, which would be attached on the left-hand side, and then share it with your colleagues so you can co-edit, co-author, etc. together. Basically collaborate. So as I said, Copilot integrates within it. So that's why I've got a demo on it. I've got a bit of a sweet tooth, so I've created a demo around a charity cake sale. And I'm asking Copilot, can you create me a Teams channel announcement to let everybody know in the organization that we are running another charity cake sale? Keep it short, keep it sweet. It's going to be on a certain date, and that's what I've got. Now, if I shared this page with my colleague and they had Copilot, then I will be able to see the prompts that they're using to co-edit. If you are not co-editing a document, then no, your prompts are not shared with your colleagues, etc. This is just for yourself unless you choose to share it with them. I just said add some funny cake jokes just to, again, keep it lighthearted. Now, I don't want a repeat from last year. Last year, maybe 6 or 7 people just created the same chocolate cake and it didn't sell out. Obviously, it wouldn't be a problem for me. As I said, I've got a sweet tooth, but it was a problem for the business. So we're going to address that. So we're going to go to Copilot and we're going to say, can you create me a table so we can get people to populate what they're going to bring in beforehand, so we don't repeat the same problem. Now, I'm a slow typer, so you can probably see what I'm typing in. And my prompt is okay, but I just want to show you that Copilot might not always get it right the first time, and it might not be the best response. And I just want to show you that I don't want you to feel frustrated and not want to use that application with Copilot just because it hasn't given you the response. It could be down to your prompting or redirecting Copilot. So as you can see, I've got my table, but that's not what I wanted, but I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to go back to Copilot and I'm just going to say, I didn't want this table pre-populated. And also, can you add some clear instructions at the bottom of the table so people know how to populate each column, just to make it crystal clear for everyone? Okay, in a second, Copilot is going to clear the table clean, as you can see, and at the bottom we've got instructions. And that's exactly what I wanted. And I didn't have to start from scratch. I just had to go back to Copilot saying, this is what I want. Now I've copied just an area of the page. If you want to share maybe a certain segment and not the entire page with somebody, this is called a loop component. And what that means is you can copy, in my case, the table and the instructions, and then you can paste it into maybe a Teams chat, maybe emails or a Word document. People might prefer to reply back on emails, and that's completely fine. Just paste your loop component. So paste this into your emails, and people can answer their questions in those locations. And it would synchronize in real time back into your loop page. So you don't have to keep updating the system saying, oh, somebody just said they're going to make chocolate chip cookies. I need to go back into my loop and update it myself. It would just do it itself. So it's really good for like tracking people or chasing them on where they are with certain projects, and just putting it in another location and just leaving them to it to fill out the details rather than you having to keep updating the system. Okay, so that's an educational piece of Loop, and obviously Copilot integrates within that as well. So Excel. So Excel has come a long way this year, and I'm going to build up on this. I'm going to start with basic to moderate users, and then I'll build up to advanced. So I've got, again, sweet tooth. So I've got a table all around bakery goods on the left-hand side, revenue between November and December, the quantity we've sold, expenses, etc. Please don't look at it in too much detail. It is just for demo purposes. Now, it is important to put your spreadsheet into a table format, because if it is not in a table format, then Copilot might start to miss out certain numerical values. So just highlight the area that you need and then just click on format as a table at the top there, and then it will do that. And then you can start to use Copilot. So on the top there, click on Copilot, and I'm going to use a suggested prompt. I'm going to click on create formulas. And what that does is Copilot is going to suggest a formula that I've not thought about in order to implement within my table. So it's talking about revenue growth, and it's giving me the formula. If I want to learn that, I can. I'm not Excel savvy, so I don't actually want to learn the formula, but that's completely fine, because you can actually look at the pre-window at the bottom, and that is, if you implemented the formula, that's how it's going to look. Click on to insert column, and it implements it for you. So you no longer have to learn the formulas if you don't want to, and you can just get the task done a lot more quickly. And that's given me a bit of inspiration. So I'm going to say, can you provide me another column and put it into basically pound format? And I'm being a little bit lazy. I'm not even going to write pounds. I'm just going to use the symbol, because Copilot just understands natural human language. So you can be quite natural with them, natural Copilot, and then you'll get the response that you want. Again, include insert column, and then it includes that for you. So I've got it in pound format, and that's exactly what I wanted. I'm going to show you some conditional formatting. So I'm sure some of you probably already know how to do conditional formatting. You don't have to do it yourself anymore. Just get Copilot to do it for you. I'm saying apply conditional formatting for profit or bakery goods of profit of less than £1,000. Now, I'm actually saying apply a conditional format. You do not have to do that. You could say, please highlight the cells. It's still going to do the same job. It's saying it's going to highlight it in red, but that's because in my prompt I said highlight it in red. And then I'm going to click on apply. And there we go. We have got bakery goods of profit of less than £1,000. And that's exactly what I wanted. I'm going to see if I can fast forward it. And I'm going to ask, can you highlight it in green for profit of less than 3,500? Click on apply. And as you can see, the table is looking a little bit better in terms of gaining that insight that I truly need. So we got the conditional formatting. They're not static. You could just click onto the settings of conditional formatting and you could change it yourself if you want to. Now, let's go a little bit further. I didn't even know Excel could do this until I started creating demos. And I've asked Copilot, can you create me some icons against column I? Column I is profit percentage. So put it into a traffic cone system, and any arrows that are pointing downwards is profit of less than 40%, and that's what it's given me. So you can add icons within certain columns as well, just by your instructions. Now I'm going to go back to revenue growth. I'm not going to manipulate the last column. However, I am interested in it because can you see a couple of minus figures? That means it's dropping between November and December. So I need to understand that a little bit further. yes, I'm showing you quite a lot of capabilities in one demo. I don't expect you to use all of them, on your day-to-day, but hopefully this is giving you an idea of what you can do. Now I'm asking Copilot to create me a column and state red, amber, green. Red would be anything in the minus figures. Green would be anything over £1,000 for revenue growth. And at this rate, it looks like I'm just making my table larger and larger. So again, I'm just trying to show you as much capabilities as I can because I have not refreshed my chat history. You can do that when you're changing the topic. I'm not changing the topic. So I'm saying fill the cells with colors. I'm not mentioning what the cells are. I'm not mentioning what the colors are. But Copilot understands my previous prompt. So it understands I'm talking about column L. So it's highlighted it for me in red, amber, green, and it's highlighted it in the right cells as well. So anything highlighted in red is in the minus, anything highlighted in green is over £1,000, and anything in between is in amber. My favorite feature within Excel is visual representations. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Copilot, show some data insights. If you wanted a particular graph, for example, then just mention that, of course, through your instructions and what columns to look at. But I just want some general ones. So I said, show some data insights. And Copilot has suggested revenue growth. So there's not many bakery goods that are moving between the months, so are sitting in the amber. I can keep it if I want to. I can click on add to a new sheet. I actually recommend you go a little bit further. I recommend, there's a bit of a blurb that's going on. You can click on add all insights to grid. It would create you another sheet with all of the visual representations, what's going on in your graph, on your table, and that's what it's going to show you. So you can pick and choose what you want. You can change them because you can edit them. They're not static graphs, and it even adds pivot tables so you can filter through what you need to on what bakery goods are doing well and not. Okay, so as I said, this is more for basic to moderate users. If you want to go a little bit more advanced, I'm actually typing in, create me a dashboard using Python. Okay, so Python is advanced coding, but you do not need to know this advanced coding in order to start using it. Copilot will say, do you want to do advanced analysis? Just click start and it's going to create you a sheet, extract everything from your table in order to understand what it's going to be looking at all the time, and create you like a mini business intelligence dashboard. It's going to be slightly different to the visual representations that you've just seen on my previous demo, and I'm going to show you why. I'll expand on it because I'm sure you probably can't see. And now you can see there's profit percentage, revenue comparison, a correlation between expenses and profit, etc. These are static images. You cannot change them, but for good reason. It is a dashboard. So if you do have like a master spreadsheet that everybody's updating and you feel like you can benefit from a dashboard, then every time your table is updated, let's say the quantity sold for the first bakery good increased to 50,000 units. If you go back to your dashboard, it updates it itself. So the dashboard is based against any changes with your table, and you can create it within seconds to get visual representations of it. Okay, so hopefully you have an idea of what Copilot in Excel can do now. We're going to move to Copilot Chat. Copilot Chat is probably one of the main places that you're going to be using. The reason why I say that is when I was showing you a demo in Outlook, Copilot can only access your emails and your calendars. When I showed you a demo on Excel, it can only access spreadsheets. But what if you wanted Copilot to access different areas of the business, maybe a SharePoint site, maybe a PDF, an email, maybe a chat message, etc.? Then you use Copilot Chat because that accesses everything. So I'll play the demo and I can show you how it looks. So we have a work and a web toggle. The work is your internal data. You can have work and web both on together just by using those three little dots on the right hand side. You can toggle on web as well. And then if you just use the web toggle, that's just like things over the web. I scrolled down and I clicked on prompt gallery, and these are basically prompts that you can get inspiration from. Change the filters, save them. When you save them, it can be saved under your prompts. Only you have access to this. And then when you click onto it, it pre-populates into your prompt box. So if you're using a repetitive prompt, then you can save them. I actually deleted that. I've used my own prompt. I said, can you summarize my emails, my transcribed Teams meetings, maybe my Teams chats over the last 2 weeks? And can you just tell me what I have to action off? Things that needs my urgent attention. Maybe I've told somebody I'm going to email them and I forgot to email them. So then that's what I've got. I said, put it into a table format. Now that prompt is something that you could probably use on a repetitive basis. So you could click onto a little clock when you hover over and you could say, Copilot, I want you to run this prompt on your own every Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning. And you can schedule it, I think, up to 15 times, depending on what kind of prompt it is, etc. And you can schedule up to 10 different prompts at the same time. So you no longer have to even remember to prompt Copilot if it's a repetitive prompt as well. So you can schedule prompts with Copilot, and then you'll just get pinged within your teams when you do get a response back from Copilot based on your scheduled format. You can stop running it, you can delete it, etc. So you can prompt now with more scheduled prompts with Copilot. Let's say we've got a couple of note takers by hand. I'm one of those. If I'm not presenting and I'm trying to take in information, I prefer to note take by hand. I feel like I take in the information a lot better. But now you can take a picture, just like what I have done with my very scruffy writing. Take a picture of your notes, upload it. So take a picture with your phone, upload it onto your Copilot chat. I just said, rewrite this, please. And it transforms it into text format that you can save in your OneNote, in your Loop, in some kind of an area in the cloud, so you can access it a little bit more easily rather than refer back to it after a couple of months and having to find which page you were referring to. Save it within your Microsoft ecosystem. Now, my prompt was very basic. I just said, rewrite this, please. You could say, let's say we've got note takers today. You could say, I have had a workshop all around the art of the possible around Microsoft 365 Copilot. These are my notes. Please make this make sense. And then it would basically add a little bit more of a framework against your notes as well, rather than just word for word. Okay, so you can change your writing into text format over the computer as well. As I said, my favorite part is talking about customizing your Copilot, and I'm going to talk about agents. This is part of the license that I was talking about, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and this is to make it a little bit more personalized to you. And how do you do that? So you can create your own Copilot. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, HR. HR might be referring to policy documents that are pages and pages long, maybe a private SharePoint site that just belongs to HR, maybe a CSV file with contract references against them. You can create your own agent, which is basically your own Copilot, name it whatever you like. Let's name it HR Advisor, and then plug in those resources that I've just mentioned, the policy booklet, the SharePoint site, etc. So when you're speaking to HR Advisor, and this could be through your teams, like you're just talking to a colleague, say, HR Advisor, tell me about Project X policy. It's not going to deviate into your emails back in 2020 just because you mentioned that keyword. It's only going to stop at the resources you've plugged in. So it gets rid of the noise and it only focuses on your job role, basically. And you can create several different agents. Some of the popular ones would be policy documents, so like a compliance officer, for example. It could be knowledge base, so if you've got loads of people within the organization that might be probing specialists for support, they could actually probe the agent and get the same kind of answers back because you're plugging in your knowledge sources. And you can share that with your colleagues as well. So one person will create the agent, share it amongst everybody within the organization. As long as they have Copilot, then they can access the agent as well. Oh, actually, before I talk about security, I forgot to talk about autonomous agents. There is something called autonomous agents, and this is the advanced version of agents. And this is basically getting Copilot to do something without you having to prompt Copilot to constantly do it, similar to scheduling prompts, but a bit more advanced. A classic example would be, Copilot, every time I get an email come through with these types of questions, like frequently asked questions, I want you to find the answers through these resources and draft me an email and send it on my behalf. So that's autonomous because it's doing it for you based on your instructions that you've preempted. There's so many different types of examples of autonomous agents, but that's a classic example on how you can get Copilot to reply back to emails on your behalf. Right, I did say anything that you have access to, Copilot has access to as well. So this is where Cobweb will come in and obviously look at the due diligence of before giving you the license within your organization. Basically having a look at your estate and your permission levels. Does everybody need to have access to financial data, or do we need to start to narrow that down, or block certain access, creating access controls so Copilot is restricted as well? And when Copilot is assigned to that user, it can only access certain SharePoint sites and not others. So there's loads of restrictions that can be implemented if you did not want Copilot to access certain documents and resources. That could be narrowed down and restricted. You can go a little bit further and we can start talking about classifying data, adding sensitive labels, etc. But security is really important because we don't want to open up a can of worms either. So that's a conversation to have with Cobweb in terms of how does that look and what is your roadmap at the moment? Where are you at the moment? And how can you get to being Copilot ready, basically? But yeah. The main thing is permissions. If you have 50 people within your organization and you all have access to different areas of the business, then you're one step ahead because you've already restricted your access controls. Right, there is a 15% promotion that is running up until the end of September. So if you do purchase at least 10 Copilot licenses in a go, then you are eligible for 15% off for 12 months. Okay, so if you purchase 10 now, for example, and then 6 months down the line, the promotion has ended and you wanted another 10, you're still eligible for 15% off because you've locked in that promotion for 12 months. Right. Hopefully, I haven't whizzed through that too quickly, and you found that interesting. I am going to open up the floor to some questions. I'm not sure if there has been any questions dropped into the Q&A or the chat yet, because I am showing my screen. So if you can let me know, then I can answer them.
Thank you for that. There was a few questions asked in the chat. Just to let everybody know, and you should see it now, is the survey. Please fill that in. Gives our team lots of insights. One of the questions that I couldn't answer whilst that was happening is there a limit to the size or the complexity of documents in particular Word or Excel? And that's from Ben.
I believe there is. I believe there is a size. I won't know at the top of my head. I know it's 512 megabytes for each document in Copilot Studio. So I would assume it would be similar to the applications, but I feel like we'll probably have to come back to you because I don't know at the top of my head.
No worries. Ben, we can pick that up after if you like. Are there any other questions? Feel free to either ask them in the Q&A tab or the meeting chat. That's fine.
If anybody is interested in getting Copilot out, I'll just tell you a top tip. If anybody want to take some of my best practices, that's how I use Copilot. So I actually got this from one of my colleagues, and what they did, and which is what I do now, is I'm on the go a lot. So I have a lot of things that I need to follow up on. And what I do is when I do have time to just sit down, is I book in my own Teams meeting, just for like 5-10 minutes. And I run transcription whilst I'm just talking to Copilot. Nobody else is in the Teams meeting but myself. And I'm talking to basically Copilot saying, this is everything that I need to do for the next week. This is what I need to follow up on. This is priority, etc. And then after the meeting ends, I get Copilot to put it into a priority order, so I can follow it in text rather than just getting rid of the noise and put it onto a screen, so I can follow my own task management rather than just noise in my head. So yeah, that's just something that I do on a weekly basis to just try be a bit more organized. If anybody is on the go, or just find it hard to have downtime, set up your own Teams meeting.
I think that's one of the benefits of ultimately having an AI platform, is that you can pick it up and drop it off as and when you see fit. It's a really flexible tool. Ben is currently typing, so we'll hopefully there's a question behind that and we can answer that.
No pressure, Ben.
Yeah. Can you discuss a bit more about improving prompts?
Yes. So yes, we can offer something called like adoption. Adoption is really, really important. As I mentioned, prompt engineering is really important. I don't know how much you'll be able to take away today, because I haven't got my actual screen on this. But let's say your prompt needs to have certain elements within your prompt, and this is called the GCSE framework. So it's called goal, context, source, and expectation. So goal is tell Copilot what you want. I want 3 to 5 bullet points. Context is, don't be afraid to tell Copilot why do you want those bullet points. So are you trying to prepare for a meeting? What kind of meeting is it? Who is it with? And then source is, narrow it down. As I mentioned, Copilot can access everything that you have access to. So if you only wanted Copilot to access certain emails or SharePoint site, just mention that or attach a document. And then expectation is, you're going to get your 3 to 5 bullet points, but who's your target audience? Is it for yourself? Is it for a senior leadership team? Is it for a client? And mention that, because the language will be slightly different. So if you add a little bit more information like that GCSE framework, you follow that GCSE framework, you are more likely to be satisfied with Copilot's response, because it's not going to deviate and assume you're talking about something else, because you're adding clear instructions. So key takeaway, I would say, is goal, context, source, and expectation within your prompt. But yes, that seems quite lengthy, like I'm going to have to write a paragraph. But as I mentioned, you can save those prompts. So if it's something that you're going to constantly prompt Copilot for, save them. And then you just need to click onto it within your prompt gallery, and it will pre-populate into your prompt box.
Does that answer the question, Ben? Great. So unless there are any other questions, I think we can probably get 5 minutes of our day back before lunch. So that's great. Thank you, Angela. As always, it's been fantastic and very informative. And I look forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks everyone
guys.
for joining. Have a good day.